Hello, Vibha. There'll be more coming soon.
Hey, hi, good evening.
There'll be more coming soon.
Sure. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Great. Awesome. All right, welcome everyone to the Wallet Interoperability Special Interest Group call for June 23rd, 2025. Thanks for joining us today. Let's see, today on the agenda, we will hear about Inji, the credentialing stack by MOSIP from Sasikumar Ganesan and Vibha Menon. I'm so sorry if I'm messing up the pronunciation, feel free to correct me. So thank you so much for joining us and really looking forward to the presentation. We are recording this call. It will be posted on the meeting page later today. We are following the Linux Foundation antitrust policy and the Open Wallet Foundation Code of Conduct. Let's see. Are there any announcements before we get started or any introductions? If anybody is new to the call, joining for the first time, and would like to take a moment to introduce themselves and talk about what they are working on or interested in the space, now would be a great time.
Hello, this is Ranganath from Bangalore, India. So I'm connecting for the first time. I have been working in Ethereum protocol layer. So I just saw the post in LinkedIn and I wanted to understand. I also worked on DAD-based applications.
Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah, thank you so much for joining the call. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Let's see, any other introductions?
Shar, I don't have an introduction. I just want to let folks know I just shared the agenda that Shar is sharing on screen in chat. If you want to take a look at it, the recording for this meeting is going to end up in this agenda document. It usually takes a couple hours after a meeting ends for it to encode, but then we'll get it up there. And it's also going to be on YouTube. So all of our Wallet Interop SIG events are put on a YouTube channel for the Open Wallet Foundation. There's a playlist for the Wallet Interop SIG, and you can find all the previous and future ones there as well. Coming up the next couple of weeks, next Monday, JavaScript with Lucas from the JavaScript team. He's a great maintainer and contributor to our projects, and we're really psyched to see that. Global Digital Collaboration Recap. I will be here over to talk about what happened at the Global Digital Collaboration next week in Geneva. That's July 14th. The Credimo team, actually it's the Fork Bomb team, is going to show off Credimo. I got a very quick demo of this last week, and it is pretty neat. So if you are at all interested in testing, interoperability testing, like if you're thinking or working in that space, it's absolutely going to be worth your time. Following that, July 28th, Clesio is going to present Bifold. And then following that, we're going to have a session on August 4th, interoperability system requirements, building, running, updating, and documenting. And that's it for me, Shar. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. Yeah, great to look ahead at the future presentations. Let's see, any other announcements or introductions? All right, we can take a moment as well to look at project updates on Akapai. Stephen, I think you're back under Sovereign, is that right?
I am back and still can't change from my other persona into my normal persona, but hey.
That's so strange.
Yeah, I think I know
Let's
why,
see.
but I can't do it a third time. So we are having the Akapug meeting tomorrow. We'll have an update from Dave McKay on Canon and the progress they've made there. Canon, as mentioned before, is Akapai, where all of the data other than the keys are managed outside of Ascar, so in normalized databases. So makes it much easier to query, present, create user interfaces using it. So that's there. We're looks like we've sorted out the concurrency issues, and we are prepping for a new release. We'll probably do one, and then hopefully Dave McKay's work on Canon and his team, I should say, will be ready to go, and that will at least be a minor and probably a major upgrade to Akapai. So that could well be a 2.0 of Akapai. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you. And then for
the Credo team, I think, is
Credo.
working on a very similar effort than Canon in a slightly different way, but doing the same sorts of things where they're doing removing, well, it actually says there, sorry, I see it there, new key management module separate keys from regular storage, which is, again, what the goal of Canon is in Akapai. So going in that same direction.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for those updates. Let's see. Are there any other updates from the other projects as well, or anything to add on Akapai and Credo from anybody?
Yeah, sure. Not really speaking for the Credo team. Not really speaking for the Bifold team, but next Tuesday is going to be the last Bifold call for the summer. They're going to take a break from their every other week call until after the summer's over in early September. And so I just put a note in chat, but you can also check the main calendar and find out when the next, the next Bifold meeting is next Tuesday, July 1st, and then the following one will be the first week of September. And Bo just shared a FindyNet link in chat, specifically for wallet funding, but also especially for the decentralized identity interop profile that Samuel from the FindyNet community presented in this meeting a couple of sessions ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. So thanks for sharing that, Bo, in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. All right, let's see. And Sean mentioned the Global Digital Collaboration Conference next week in Geneva. Is anybody on this call planning to attend that? Let's see.
I'll be there.
Ah, great. Great. So yeah, I'll be there. Sean will be there. Definitely would love to connect when we're there. And yeah, we'll have a session that is specifically related to the special interest groups of the Open Wallet Foundation, and we will talk about the Wallet Interoperability SIG and have some great discussions. So yeah, really looking forward to that. All right. With that, I think we are good in terms of our announcements and introductions, and I will go ahead and hand over the screen share to our speakers. Thank you so much again for joining us. We're looking forward to learning about MOSIP.
Sure.
Thank you so much. So I'll just bring up my screen. Team, could you please confirm if the
We-
slide is visible?
We can see your slide. It says an inside look at Inji. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Great, go for it.
And I hope the slides are swapping, right?
They're swapping and they look good.
Okay. Thank you so much for the confirmation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, and thanks for providing this time and an opportunity for us to present. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this project called MOSIP. It's an open source project funded by the philanthropy. MOSIP started about 6 years before, specifically targeting ID. Our goal was to create ID for almost as a national ID kind of an infrastructure. There are a lot of governments for the decade has worked on building national ID. Some of them have seen quite a success. Some of them has been failures. And the success and the failure has been studied, and then we started building MOSIP in the open source to provide an opportunity for the governments to pick up and choose an open platform to build their national ID on. Before anybody jumps into the surveillance side of the problem, this is nothing to do with the surveillance itself. This is to make sure everybody could potentially get one ID to begin with. And this also has a lot more personal reference to me as an individual. My mom got her first ID somewhere about 2019 or 2020. That's when her first ID came in. Until then, she does not digitally legally exist within the system. That's how the system has treated her in the overall presence. And this is because the governments in multiple countries today do not have a way to accommodate people to whom ID has never been issued, and they have been repeatedly serving the set of people in the country who had some other form of ID, and most often women have been vulnerable in that kind of a domain. So a government ID, whether it's your first birth ID, which is your birth certificate, which makes you enable yourself into the civil registration system. From there, your health records, your schooling and everything provides you an ID. So in countries where these opportunities do not exist and proper civil registrations do not exist, they're faked with multiple IDs, and there are quite a lot of problems that arises out of it. That in turn was denying people from including them into the regular economy. So anything to do with loans, anything to do with banks, they never had a bank account. They never had access to loans and other features that we think by default should be available for everybody, right? So the aim of this project is to provide solutions and technology and processes that are necessary to enable a government to issue an ID. At the same time, we also were very careful about some of the basic principles that we wanted to ensure. One, we wanted to make sure it is highly inclusive. It has to cover from a person who is completely homeless to a person who has all the possible IDs and a fancy mobile phone, right? And youngsters. So the system has to scale across every individual culturally and carry across this variance. Second, we also had a series of roadblocks in terms of achieving this ID. In the past resulted in quite a lot of vendor locked solutions, and we want to make sure this solution specifically would not be vendor locked. We wanted to build it in the open source as one of the reasons, but we also adapt quite a lot of standards that exist, and wherever standards do not exist, we go ahead, publish it out. We try to work with OpenID, we try to work with other standard bodies to put through our thought process to say how certain things should be enhanced or certain things in the standards has to be enhanced to adapt to those status. Right, that has been our one of our core work, and over time, when we continued working on this path, most of our work in the past has been around central ID, because national ID is all about bringing in people at the national scale and then providing them with ID. But as we proceeded into that space, there are a few challenges which was very difficult to achieve in the centralized ID. And one of the biggest challenge that we think that we were facing when we worked with the centralized ID was the fact that a lot of the transactions that we do at the government and the people level is very, very decentralized. People walk into the government offices, the government officers speak to the people in person to resolve issues and provide services. And a lot of a centralized form of ID, a needing for a connectivity, a lot of these things are, to be precise, is a restriction. So one classic example that we keep using internally is the person in some of the developing nations, there are places where you would get your food or ration kind of food grains and others at a lower price. And for that, you need to prove that you are a citizen of that country, a resident of that country. And if you could prove that, and this is the first time you're getting that food items, then they would give you at a discounted price. So these are kind of fair price shops. So when people go in there, the person who has to give you the goods is right in front of you. The goods are right next to you. The person to whom you have to provide is also in front of you. But a central server down or a network being down essentially means nobody gets the food. The grains are sitting right there on the store and nothing moves ahead. And that's a classic example of how MOSIP got into this particular domain and works around decentralization. So our work has been, how do we actually exploit the opportunity of decentralization and verifiable credentials to make this life of this individual easier? At the same time, this life can be made easier not by us directly working, but government providing this opportunity. And for us, we want to be the backbone which has built a lot of these things for the government in the open source, so that the government could pick it up and use it and make these services to their end citizens a little more faster. Right, that has been our primary focus, and that is what drives almost all the way in which the product is structured, the way in which the product would work. Everything is structured around that. Sometimes we use the libraries from OWF. I'm not exactly sure every model, every library. There are certain other open groups that we work with, like the FIDES community and others, with whom we closely work, and we pick up some of their work as well into our case. A lot of our work is picked up by the governments, and the governments actually build systems above us and publish it within the country. And as of today, as we stand today, the number of IDs officially issued using MOSIP as a platform has been ranging around 135 million identities across the globe, from Philippines in Asia all the way to Ethiopia in Africa, and we are moving into LATAM and other places as we proceed. Right, that's the quick and brief about what and who we are. Next slide, please, Vibha. I would not go down, bore you down these things. A lot of these things are known for you in your own projects. It's nothing new. The only thing that stands out in between the verifiable credentials that predominantly everybody works versus the verifiable credentials that we work, it's almost everything that you work. Plus, our aim is also to be extremely friendlier still with the paper. We still see quite a lot of paper usage in the market. We still see people with no phones in the places where we operate with, people with feature phones. So our support for USSD, our support for paper-based credentials is a very, very important support. Otherwise, pretty much everything else is known to you. You use it, and you would hear it in every project that you work with. But those are the two primary things which are very, very specific. If there are places where Inji is adapted in the government, and specifically because of these two specific natures where we have not let the paper go just because few of the citizens in the country has moved on the digital path. So we find the balance. We work with both the extremes, and we let both the extremes to work with us. That's the primary thing. Next slide, Vibha. So,
Okay.
Vibha, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sasi, for your inputs and insights. Before I get started, thank you all for taking the time and interest to learn more about Inji, our verifiable credentialing solution, which is designed to power the entire life cycle, starting from issuance, secure storage, to verification of these verifiable credentials, thus making sure that the digital transactions that we make are secure across a wide variety of sectors. So let's now see how Inji can fit into this credentialing ecosystem. Basically, Inji is designed to support as a toolkit for all different types of stakeholders within this verifiable credential lifecycle. So it could be an issuer, holder, verifier. So Inji does cater to all the needs of such stakeholders in order to make sure that we build trustworthy, scalable digital credential solutions. So as you see in this list, talking about Inji Certify is one such component within our Inji stack which converts data to trustworthy credentials. Let me just give an example of a university who would want to issue their degree certificates or academic transcripts to students in the form of a verifiable credential. So by making use of Inji Certify, we can make sure that such credentials can be issued, which in addition to just issuing, we also support other features such as creating, signing, issuing, binding, and revocation of credentials. So it's not just digital credentials that we offer, but let's say, for example, if there's a user who does not have a smartphone, he can probably get this verifiable credential, which is in the form of a digital form, and he can get it probably printed on a paper. So even we do support paper-based credentials where inclusivity is offered so that any type of users who may or may not have a smartphone or who may or may not have digital access can also get their credentials issued and verified instantaneously. So instead of paper documents or PDFs that we have in our traditional form, which can be faked or which is prone to any tamper related issues, we make sure that through Inji, we get cryptographically secure credentials. Now, as you see, this second component that we have mentioned here is wallet, which makes data trustworthy and portable. So it's something very similar to how you have your credentials on a digital pocket. It's something very similar to that. Just like how you store all your money and cash, your most important requirements in a pocket. The very similar way, wallet also acts, our Inji wallet also acts like a digital wallet where you can store all the important credentials that helps you prove your credibility or your identity. But this is going to be extremely tamper-proof and verifiable. Coming to the third component that you see here is Inji Verify, which allows trusted data to be exchanged across any service providers. Let's say, for example, in a traditional form, every time you want to get yourself identified or you want to prove your identity or you want to avail any service, the very basic step that you have to always experience is to make sure that you prove your identity, and you also have to make sure whether you are really eligible to avail that particular service. Through Inji Verify, you can make sure that you transfer this particular data which is available on your wallet, and it can be instantaneously verified by any of the service provider, so that he really need not have to waste his time going through manual paper checks, and that respective end user can gain any of the service delivery at a very shorter duration. So such data which is in trusted form can be consumed and validated instantaneously. So the service provider could possibly an employer, a bank, a hospital who would want to verify the identity of a end user. So such service providers can make use of Verify to ensure that this particular credential is coming from a trusted source and it is authentic enough in real time. So just as you see some of the standards that's been mentioned here. So this is the list of all those global standards that Inji currently follows, so that Inji does not literally lock you in. It can literally work with any ecosystem that actually adheres to and supports these global standards. So in short, if I have to just say, Inji enables us to build, manage, and exchange these trustworthy credentials, which is backed by global standards, secure technology, and flexibility, which is meant for real-time use across various different use cases such as agriculture, healthcare, academic, travel, employment, and whatnot. Now, let us just take you through the architecture of two of our components, which is Inji Certify, and then we'll move on to Inji Verify. Over to you, Sasi.
Sure. Thanks. So very quick on the Inji Verify, Inji Certify. I think predominantly most of the things are known to you. It's built as a microservice so that it could help the government's various departments to take their existing data and convert them as a credential. So the idea is we are provided with a data provider plugin. It's a very simple plugin that you could write into the system, which could pick up data either from Excel sheets or from databases. Because the government varies in scale. There are governments which has a full-fledged Oracle database where they have a lot of information about the end user. And today those details are given as a paper print or a PDF. And instead we allow them to convert this into a credential using this solution. So the government or their respective department could deploy Inji Certify and create a plugin which connects to the data source. The plugin then connects to the data source, converts it into a credential, and then issues it. We automatically manage the keys for them, and it could do the data format and all the metadata and discovery. Everything is automatically available in few configurations. All they have to write is the data provider plugin, and few configurations has to be done. Once done, the system is ready to go for them instantly. So this helps government in converting their existing data into the digital credential. Now, when it converts into credential, it allows an OpenID for VCI interface in the front to download it into the wallet. Any compliant wallet will be able to download. In case the end user does not have a wallet, then there is a small web portal that is being built that's already available, which converts this verifiable credentials into a simple to use QR code, which then can be downloaded and printed into the user's hand. So for example, in some parts of Brazil, some parts of TNT and some parts of India, they use this as an approach where the farmers of those respective regions, their documents are converted as a verifiable credentials using Inji Certify. But then when it gets printed in the farmer's card or the actual land record documents, it's converted into a credential QR code, and then the QR code is put on the paper, and then it's laminated as a proper certificate and then handed over to this individuals. Of course, the digital form still exists. If they want to download, they would be able to download it without a problem. But traditionally, they have been used to giving out certificates onto the people's hand, and people know how to use it. Now, it just adds up an additional step to tell now there is a QR code which could tell that it was in fact issued for this national ID holder, and he is the right author for it. Well, we'll speak about the verify. Vibha will soon take over, but in short, certify is just go plug a BOYO system which is currently operating. No need to no additional change. Just write a plugin and it just introduces an ability to convert it into a verifiable credentials. Over to you, Vibha.
Thank you so much, Sasi. Okay, so let's just move on to the other stack, or maybe the other component of Inji stack, which is Inji Verify. So as we explained earlier, Inji Verify is nothing but a solution which is designed to enable secure and seamless verification of verifiable credentials. So currently within Inji Verify, we support 3 different modes of verification. One being scanning a QR code, uploading a QR code, or maybe uploading a file which contains the QR code within it. And third being the OpenID for VP-based VP verification flow. So if you look at Inji Verify, it's something like admin-based configuration is already been preset there, where they can actually request. When I say they, the verifiers can actually configure what kind of credentials they are expecting the users to share to them. So when we elaborate on this, Inji Verify, it lets verifiers to configure the credentials they require, what data or claims they're expecting, and what presentation definitions that they're expecting out of this request. So based on this configuration that we are setting within Inji Verify, it either generates a QR code or a digital credential API request that the user can interact with. Now you also see here a relying party portal which will initiate the credential request, while on the other hand, the relying party server will actually look after the verification logic and outcomes of it. On the other hand, when we talk about the end user who have the verifiable credential present in their wallet, what they will be doing is that they will interact with this relying party portal, and this relying party portal is in turn integrated with the Inji Verify SDK. Now, this Inji Verify SDK is like a plug and play component kind of a thing, where based on the use case, the relying party can maybe extract only one of the 3 different verification modes that I was explaining. So we have scan and upload as well as the VP verification flow within Inji Verify. The relying party basically can pick and choose which verification mode they would require, one or more of them. And they can actually, and all of these are packaged within the Inji Verify SDK. All that they have to do is just make sure that they take this Inji Verify SDK and integrate it into their relying party portal. So coming back to the discussion that we were having, the wallet holder who currently has his credentials will now have to interact with this relying party portal to understand what are the credentials that the verifier is requesting for. So this SDK is embedded within the relying party's front end, and it will support all these verification models such as QR code scan, upload, and OpenID for VP-based verification flows. So this SDK, it handles all the complexity within the UI layer, starting from generating the QR code or the DC API request, which is based on the configured verification request that we have already preset within our backend. Now, you also see a trust store over here. So basically what happens here is that once the our wallet holder, he actually shares the verifiable credentials which were requested by the verifier, this Inji Verify, what it does is that it will validate it against the trust store, which will ensure that the issuer's DID or credential schema or all these cryptographic signatures are properly validated in order to ensure that this particular credential is tamper-proof and is authentic enough. We also see another component here, which is the vault. So basically what happens here is that, let's say, for example, if the credential is valid, it will make sure that this particular credential is stored securely on the vault, and in return, we are going to get a unique ID out of it. So this ID can be shared with the relying party, which will then fetch the credential data through the backend call to Inji Verify. So the relying party server, it fetches the verified credential data later using this particular ID. So to just summarize, what we actually see here is one of the most important things to note within Inji Verify is that here the relying party literally need not have to worry on what VC format or what validation logic is being performed. All of these verification logics or transformation of data, entire thing is being handled by Inji Verify. So it will do the verification logic of it. It will just look into what are the different credential formats that it will have to adhere to. And what it will in turn give you is a simple and consumable JSON format, which the end users can use. So through these two components that we have explained, it actually literally defines you the very essence or the very beauty of Inji. So also to note here is that since Inji, as we went through the different components within Inji, which is certify, wallet, and verify, please note here that this is just a modular adoption. Let's say, for example, if a given ecosystem would want to consume Inji as a whole, they can take all these 3 components. Let's say they just want to pick and choose any one of them. Let's say they already have an existing issuer and a wallet in place. They can simply choose Inji Verify out of it. So what we are saying here is it's a modular adoption. Either you can take Inji stack entirely, or you can just pick one of the components that best fits your use case, and then we can take it accordingly. So there is no such locking mechanism where we expect you to consume only Inji entirely. Nothing like that. So you can take up any of the components. It could be a verifier component, it could be an issuer component, or a wallet component based on your use case, and you can integrate it accordingly as per your needs. Now, coming to the slide, basically, I've just collated all the links that will help you out to try and explore our Inji credentialing solution. So here is the link to our sandbox environment where you could literally try out all the um, setups. You can do a local setup, or you can extract the APK out of it in case of a wallet. So all of these links are provided in the collab.mosip.net, where it actually acts like a sandbox environment for the community users to test and provide any of their feedback. So I hope that this PDF will anyways be shared to you for further reference. So you may please refer to it, and the links have been rightly provided. You may please click onto it so that you can actually access these portal which are residing within the collab environment, which is our sandbox environment. And also we have provided detailed steps on how to perform the setup within your local system. So we have separate links for wallet, which resides both on mobile phone as well as web browsers. And also we have link for Inji Verify. If you actually want to know more details about Inji, what features it offers, what are the different planned roadmap items that are going to come up in our near future, you are more than free to access this particular documentation link, where we have detailed guides. It could be workflow guides, it could be navigation guides. So all of these documents are being collated within this documentation link. Before we get to any questions, you may please scan this QR code, because just like I showed you in the previous slide, if you scan this QR code, you will be getting all the consolidated links of Inji documentation, our sandbox environment for further testing, as well as also you can reach out to community.mosip.io for any of the further questions if you have, or if you would like to collaborate or contribute to our open source community, you're more than free to do it. So I think just by scanning this QR code, you're going to be able to access to all of these links that we just discussed in the previous slide. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot for your time. And I hope this session was interesting enough to all of you. We can get to our question and answer session if any of you have questions.
Thank you so much. This was such a great presentation. It looks like, Jim, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I'll just, thanks for the great presentation, actually. You covered an awful lot of ground and in a very short time. So that was very much appreciated. And thank you for the links. I didn't know about the platform before, but it's worth certainly taking a close look at. A couple of quick questions that I'll just throw out there. Key rotation support, where is that? Is that automated today? Things like PII with a non-creds too, is that there? The last thing that's, and then also I'll say wallet support. So wallet support is always, in my mind, a weakness for a lot of things. So it's, what's I'll call it business continuity plan, RPO, RTO for, I'll call it key use cases. I have, my digital credentials, my phone breaks or is stolen, and I need to get insulin in the next 15 minutes. How is that handled in your world? And then the last thing is, I'll call it the WebVH or the retirement plan, more than WebVH. It's really the retirement plan. So there's very few systems in the world that have lasted more than 20, 30 years. So that means that every system that you create fundamentally is going to get retired at some point. So the smart thing actually is on the front end to figure out a strategy, how the solution would get retired. And in a sense, the capabilities moved to, I'll call it some other non-defined platform. So those are my points. Thanks.
Sure. I'll cover some of it, Jim, and thanks for the great questions. In terms of key rotation, from the issuer side, the key rotation happens through our key manager. That has been one of the core module of MOSIP's identity system, which deals with all the PKI related needs. So that does care for the key rotation for the issuer specifically. But on the wallet, I don't think there exists anything right now which automatically takes care of this problem. But the way the system is built is there is a in case of national ID specifically, there is a dependency on biometrics, which can be enabled by the governments, which is how predominantly they use. So every time you install it on a newer phone, the first way to verify you is biometric through biometrics, not through your actual cryptographic key that you used on the other phone. So if you install the same wallet on another phone, you validate with your newer biometrics, your face or your fingerprint. And once that is validated, the newer key is automatically accepted and the older key is just retired. So in case you lost your phone, in case you throw away your phone or your phone is fully damaged, you have full ability to recover. We are still working on some other way of redoing this without having biometrics, but we are not close enough on that domain. There is a project called Inji Web, which is supposed to synchronize all this data, should provide some way of sharing it, sharing the data and the key in a certain way into a cloud system, but it has its own set of restrictions. And working across people who understand passwords and working across people who do not understand passwords is not a very easy thing within the entire at a country scale. So there's a kind of struggle and a lot of debates are going on internally. Now, in terms of trust, as of now, the trust is very, very simple. It just uses the public key and ensures this is the known issuer, and for this known issuer, this is the key he has been using, and the system just keeps track of that. We are working with an organization called Glyph as a part of Kerry and as a part of VLI. They are working with issuing organizational IDs. And one of our goals is to see how both MOSIP and them could collaborate to enable this trust a little more better, at least from the party side. And the individual side, of course, we would have backed it up against a national ID. So that would provide certain level of trust that is needed. On your last question, any system has to be built for retirement. I think absolutely valid point. We're trying to continue to learn that. I don't think right now there is enough thinking inside this project which is planned for it, and it's a very, very valid input. And I love the idea of thinking about retirement from the platform, and people should be able to move to the newer one when they think they have achieved what they have to achieve with this platform. We will take that as a valid input, and I will pass it within the community and see what we could do with that. Thank you.
Let's see. It looks like there are a few questions in the chat. Let's see. From Eric Ramirez. If you want to hop off mute and verbalize it, feel free, or feel free to just answer the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Congrats to the Inji team. This is a very good presentation, very interesting. I just wanted to go back to the beginning. I know you mentioned that the point of the solution is not to support surveillance. I do see there's a value. This is a very valuable tool. Identity, it's a foundational services for so many things. So this is definitely making a huge difference. In terms of the specs and standards that the solution already implements, you mentioned the mobile driver license is listed as one of the standards that is already implemented in the solution. So I'm curious to know if you have implemented the spec, including the ability to track transactions, which is, as I understand it, I might be wrong, not mandatory within the spec. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion right now around the implications of having that ability and what it would mean for privacy. Even though I can definitely see in smaller scenarios, it would be very useful to track usage and make decisions and support policy making. But yeah, so curious to hear how you guys are handling that. Over.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. That's a good question. Kim has been one of our advisor for the MOSIP project as well. The MDL spec implementation is very, very specific to the data format support. We do not go all the way end to end to support the entire MDoc specification right now. We don't envisage to provide the call home and any of the additional functionalities that are needed. Personally, we think while it's great to think that we could have every analytics that's possible, but we personally think at the identity domain there are certain restrictions that we all has to adhere to, and specifically when you work on national ID, privacy is a very, very tough and a risky subject. Our need for decentralization comes out of a necessity where we want to ensure people who are completely disconnected are able to make a transaction work and could prove their trust and worthiness very easily. So in that aspect, anything, once the data goes into the wallet, the only reason it would ever come back is literally zero within our system. So there is no refresh. There is no automatic pulling of credentials. There is nothing else. So you have a credential, we continue to make it remain. We also see, because of our experience of working in the Ukraine during the wartime periods, we also know that almost all of the revoked and expired credentials may be still an important and valid source of information for the end user to prove that he was a valid citizen or a resident of that country, and he should be allowed into the relief and other places. So we don't remove any expired or revoked credentials automatically as well within our system. So those are basic tendency that we have continued to follow, irrespective of whatever the protocol says. We think there is a need to adhere to a real world card and the revocation situation in most cases. Thank you.
I'll take the next question, Steve Curran, under a weird account, but anyway, I was wondering about, since I'm very involved in building open source communities and the like, always interested in deployments, how many are live, how many are planned, and then the diversity of the contributors. The more, the closer you get to live in different jurisdictions, the more divisions occur and what's important and what to work on. And so I'm just wondering how you're handling that. So deployments and contributor community diversity and who's contributing to this.
Okay. Quickly, deployment. Most of us, a full stack is currently deployed and operational in 4 countries. Where 4 countries officially has announced it as national ID and has enrolled at least 50% of their people. Philippines is one classic example. Morocco is another classic example. So these are countries which use the platform. Of course, there are changes that they make. Unlike other community right now, the changes and things that they make most often does not come back to us. The changes are made in accordance to their country's needs and specifications, and it remains there. Wherever they find a bug or wherever they find issues, they do reach out. In case they have fixed a bug, they do contribute back. These are smaller events that happens. In certain cases, countries like Ethiopia built one full module and literally handed over to us back and said, hey, this is a module that we felt was very important for MOSIP to have it, and we found that it's not available. And they built it with their engineers and they contributed it back. So contribution happens in that form, but it is very hard for us right now, honestly, to find a community which continuously keeps contributing because our cause is very limited. There are hardly 190 countries, and how many countries will you deploy a national ID for? So there is a limitation in that in terms of contribution. In terms of Inji, specifically, now that the stack is getting a little more promoted, there seems to be a set of new SIs who have come up. We see some closer to 7 to 8 companies which are now promoting and build solutions above this, and they are reaching out to governments and individual departments and universities and colleges where they seem to be driving their business around this. There has been some contribution that has come back very, very recently to us. Again, we just don't know whether these contributions are going to be long running. Most of our contribution has been either by money through through philanthropy or some kind of service funds that comes in. The remaining comes in by industries around Bangalore, where we predominantly our development team resides. The industries around here who knows us well enough, they actually deploy their engineers with us, and they work closer in terms of their resources working with us together, and they build these systems together. That has been the other form of contribution. So I would not say it's a very active contribution domain. It varies, and when we are peak of the implementation, our contribution shoots up, and then it kind of dies down when the implementation finishes, and we wait for the next country to pick up when it shoots up again. Thank you.
Interesting. Thank you for that. I mean, that's been our experience, has been the pain of having somebody fork the repo, do something innovative and useful that would be important for everyone else, and then we have to wait till they backport it, or if they backport it to the original code base. That is very painful. So yeah, I can feel that. Thank you so much for your answer. That was good. Sean?
Yeah. Again, thank you to the MOSIP team for presenting. And you gave us time to have questions. This is so good. Thank you. I do have a question. What help do you need? I know you're part of the Open Wallet Foundation. You are contributors of a project. How can we help? What do you need? What does the Wallet Interoperability SIG? What can we help you with? What are you looking for?
Okay, that's a great. I think we're still struggling to move some of our work to OWF. That's the reality right now. So it's not very common from the places where we come from to work with Linux Foundation. To be specific, it's not been also easy. I think the only project that got moved in is kind of a stable state kind of a project. So there is less work that actually happens within the OWF from our side. We would really love to move some of the other things which we spoke about, the paper credentials, which we think is very, very important. When we speak about cross-border, we speak about relief and other places, and we don't think we can solve all the problem just by ourselves. I think this community would be great, where a lot of solutions are being built, and if some libraries could exist within the OWF, which could understand these paper credentials that is being put out, and how to decode, how to actually use them, and how to actually verify and validate them. I think it would be great as an overall sense for the entire world together, because we never know with the current situation in wars and everything. People genuinely lose their IDs, run away from their home. There are several needs where papers have to be printed, and then that has to be trusted. And it would be nice to see if some of those important key modules can move into the OWF and could be maintained and together, of course, would be the best thing that could happen. Well, we could envisage a lot more, but I think that specifically would be a best thing, so that the work can continue, and it will also help answer Jim's question that someday your system is going to be dismantled. What are you going to do? I hope such libraries existing in OWF could help us dismantle our system far more safely, thinking there are so many other companies which are already supporting it.
Thank you. That is awesome. And I will follow up with you. I'm going to see you guys next week, and we can definitely talk about other projects.
Absolutely.
It looks like, David, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. It's really fascinating. I very much appreciate it. I guess I was interested to know, is there any collaborative work on specific use cases? And I'm thinking of asylum seekers, refugees, people that are displaced. You talked about homeless people. I just think exploring those particular challenges and looking at how this could assist with that might give some real energy and focus internationally on that. And there's also a very large movement around children and young people and ensuring they are protected, particularly when they become displaced. The news doesn't report if hourly or daily of children that have lost their parents or become separated. And I'm very keen on the idea of helping people capture the evidence about themselves at the earliest possible opportunity in their country of origin before bad things happen. So, do you have any working groups or people focusing on these types of use cases that might have international relevance?
David, there's no specific working group explicitly focusing on this right now. There are two different talks that happens because the working groups are very difficult for us to gather right now. So our working model has been to work with the United Nations and any of the UN bodies to build proof of concept around any displacement and any relief needs. And we build several such proof of concepts. So we work with the UN, the IOM, the IOC. We also work on COL for micro credentials. So there are a lot of work that happens which comes out as POCs, but there is no specific working group that gets created and envisaged. And if you think, David, that if that is something that can actually gear up some momentum to help people to get some basic credentials on their hands before they leave their country, I think we could definitely spend some time and make that understanding, but we have not yet made any such working group. Most of this work has been knowledge gathering from the UN bodies, and then we recreate that into micro credentials and then show them how it can be done in the open source, and then they go back to the countries and they present it, and that's how the countries are adapting today. But I would be more than willing to open up and see if there is an open group that we should learn from you guys.
Okay, that's encouraging. The thing I would say is that many countries that are facing a volume of migration, refugee, asylum, and displaced people have funding to try and manage and cope with it and address it. And I think it's an international endeavor. And if we could end up with a open source framework and solution sets that could be deployed internationally, because you don't know where you're going to end up. If you think of the migration path of people that are trying to come as far as the UK, sometimes they end up in different parts of the Baltic states, or they end up in Europe, and or they end up completely displaced in completely the wrong place. And I think the sooner we can help these people capture enough about themselves not to lose their dignity, their experience, their circumstances, they become much more mobile and safe, and that reduces the risk of harm.
Absolutely valid, David. I think I would write to you after outside of this meeting, and your suggestions and ideas would be more than welcome for us to see how.
I'll put my email address in here on the chat so you've got it. But I'd be very keen to hear back from you.
Absolutely. Looks like we've got time for one more question. Eric, it looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Just following up on David's comments. We were actually working with UNICEF to support migrant communities in Latin America, and we were just following the model from the Global Digital Health Certification Network, which is using the verifiable credentials that were developed during COVID. So it's a natural place for Inji to work. The core of the solution is to have a central directory of the keys or the participating countries, so that the credentials can be verified. So that should work. Unfortunately, as we know, the development sector has been through a lot of funding cuts, so the project couldn't be implemented. But it's definitely something that can be done. A larger questions that I had that I put in the chat, it's in terms of international trade, being able to build that framework of trust across countries, not just for the emergency context, but like for other legal documents. And we know that Inji has the ability to produce those documents, but the actual underlying trust has to be equivalent across borders, and that's probably something that is not, it's beyond the scope of Inji. But I think there's an opportunity for Inji to advocate for those conversations to happen, and ideally to develop something akin to areas in Europe with the European Parliament, so that everyone in the region, let's say in Southern Africa or East Africa, have a common set of standards for signature creation, and they can trust each other. Right now, the Inji is working localized, and that's great. So how do we make that go across borders? And I think that would be the next step in my view. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for the suggestion. And I think if you don't mind, if I could reach out to you to see what happened on that health side and how did they build that trust. It would be a great learning. Will you be okay enough if we reach out to you back, Eric?
Absolutely. I can just like David, I can also just put my email in here.
Okay, thank you. We will reach out and we'll have a discussion with you.
Great. Awesome. Looks like unfortunately we are at time, and we will have to close the call. But thank you so much, Sasikumar and Vibha, for presenting. This was a great presentation. Thank you also for leaving time for the discussion and the questions. That was really valuable. And thanks everybody for joining today. Join us next week as well to learn about SDJOT JavaScript library. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day or night, everyone.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.